All right, it's 11 o'clock, Wednesday, January 31st, 2024. Let's call the Personnel and Finance Committee meeting to order. We'll start with the introductions.
Kara Terry, Ward 1.
Alderman at Large Kevin Stunek.
Chief.
John Davis, Police Chief.
Patrick Wasso, Interim City Administrator.
Connie Hillman, Finance Director.
And Gabe Johnson, Chair of the committee. We have 6 items on the agenda, the first of which is a quote for a Public Works Maintenance Facility gate.
So this was a gate. We budgeted $10,000 in 2023, hoping that we were going to get a grant to make up for the total cost of $20,000. We did not get the grant in 2023, so we budgeted an additional $10,000 into 2024. However, the electrical came back way higher, more than what we thought they were going to, so the total cost now is $31,075. They do the increases mainly cost the operator, and there was additional cost. I thought he had said in here, he had told me that there had been other items in the capital budget that were already had savings for. So yes, staff has been able to find savings in other capital purchases that could be used to offset the cost of the overrun.
Can I ask where we found the savings?
I think there is some of the stuff from the parks utility equipment, the demo of the, don't quote me on this, but I think the demo of the old street or old parks building came under budget. And I think there was a couple other purchase items that came under budget, but don't quote me on that because I'm not exactly sure what
That is
came in.
that is what he said during the meeting yesterday.
Okay, looking for a motion to approve that.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I will second.
A motion and a second to approve the quote.
Oh,
All in
sorry.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. What's next?
Accept the resignation of water plant relief operator Tanner Josephson.
So with that, we have received the resignation of Tanner Josephson. He is a water plant relief operator. His last working day will be January 30th. This was presented to the Public Utilities Commission at their meeting on Tuesday. Both the commission and staff recommend not to backfill this position at this time. We are currently looking at automating the water plant, and we don't want to hire someone if we can maybe do some other modifications and things like that. So at this point, we are asking that the council or the committee accept Mr. Josephson's resignation with regret effective January 30th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. Ratify the hiring of Police Records Management Technician Michelle Mendoza.
So we received 33 applications for the police records management tech position. We interviewed 11 individuals. We offered the position to Michelle Mendoza, who started with us on January 16th at step 1 of the 2023 Police Records Management Tech wage grid. We're asking that the committee ratify the hiring of Ms. Mendoza. Is there any questions?
Any questions?
No.
I don't have any.
I make a motion to ratify the hiring.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. City Administrator Employment Contract, was that just a filler?
It's a placeholder at this point. Gabe, after the meeting, I'd like to talk to you. I just got an update from Mr. Weldon, and
Good.
so we can talk about that and see what you think, and then discuss it with the other 2 on the negotiating committee.
Perfect. I'll see you afterwards.
Okay?
So we're going to talk about, but we're planning on talking about it Monday night
Correct.
at the meeting, at the council meeting? Okay. Adopt a resolution setting the wages for non-union exempt employees.
So I have a handout for that. I'll bring that up.
Thank you. Daytime, I can even read them without my reading glasses. It's awesome.
I have to use mine.
Thank you. So part of this is also considering the appeals that we heard on January 10th. So there were 4 individuals that came forward with their appeals. So I have prepared a summary as well as some background and then staff's recommendation. So if you'd like, I can go by each individual. The first person that had an appeal was Operations Manager Trent Hawkinson. I've listed what his 23 and 24 wage grid proposals are. The summary of his appeal was that he presented information from the 2023 APPA Public Salary Survey as well as the MMUA Salary Survey. He provided a comparison schedule for his current versus the proposed wage, also compared to that data. He also inquired how his 1-1-24 step placement would be affected if he received an exceeds performance rating. So, and that was for his 22-23 review. Staff's recommendation is, number 1, staff respects his appeal and appreciates the information that he provided. However, the entire organization and internal equity also needs to be considered. So with that in mind, staff does not recommend an adjustment for that wage grid. To address his question regarding the step placement, if he would receive an exceeds performance rating for his 22-23 review, staff feels he would be placed on step 8 of the 2024 wage grid. He's currently on step 7, so then the natural progression would go to step 8. Again, that determination was made as employees were placed on the 2023 wage grid based on their 12/31 wage. And again, if they receive an exceeds rating, they go the next year to get that step placement. At this time, HR has not received his 22-23 performance review. Therefore, it is recommended that his 2024 step placement is step 7 of that wage grid. Any questions or comments on that one before we move on?
None for me. Any questions on that one?
No, sir.
Okay.
Go on.
The next one is for Finance Manager Danny Locke. Same format. The summary of his appeal was regarding his step placement on the new grid. Mr. Locke noted that when he was hired, he was told he was receiving step 5, which was considered the market rate for the 2023 grid. He requested that he be placed on step 5 of the 24 grid. Staff's recommendation is that he be placed on step 2 as proposed. That is consistent with the initial step placement for our other employees. That recommendation is based on his, because his wage grid, let me start that over. This recommendation is based on Mr. Locke's initial placement on step 2 for the 2023 Flaherty and Hood wage grid, since that was the closest step to his current wage that is equal to or exceeding his 12/31/23 wage. I also wanted to note that he will be advancing to step 3 on October 30th. That is his anniversary date of hire. Any questions or comments on that one?
Kevin?
Okay. Police Chief John Davis. His situation is a little different where both John Davis or the police chief and the deputy chief actually have wage resolutions for their 2024 wage. That was based on a supervisory wage gap compression issue that we were concerned about. So we had made a special adjustment for him. That is why just those 2 positions have wage resolutions for 24. Chief Davis had noted that typically the city uses different market comparables for our police unions. Yes, that is true because of interest arbitration. It is a different process than our other unions have for contract settlement. Chief Davis stated in December of 21, the council had adopted that separate wage resolution for a market adjustment, again, to maintain that supervisory gap between management and the union positions. He felt the new wage grid essentially reversed that corrective action and requested either that he remain on the previously approved 2024 wage grid or advance in a step on the 2024 wage grid to eliminate that pay cut in 24. Realizing again that Chief Davis and Deputy Chief Mundy are the only non-union employees with a set 2024 wage with the previously adopted wage resolution, staff recommends that Chief Davis utilize our 2024 wage grid as proposed by Flaherty and Hood. However, that his 1/1/24 placement be modified to step 5. Again, he was originally proposed to be at step 4, so this is an additional step. Further, that he advanced to step 6 on 6/3 of 24. That is on his promotion anniversary date, and that, of course, is assuming that he achieves performance expectations. With that, we also realize there's the same issue for Deputy Chief Tony Rundy. So utilizing that same logic, we are recommending that we also adjust his step placement to step 3. He was originally going to be placed at step 2, and then he also advanced to step 4 on June 3rd, excuse me. That is his promotion anniversary date. Just a final note, there was some comments made at the last meeting about the Public Utilities Director position being modified. They currently were on the same grade, so I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that that is no longer happening with this recommendation.
So what happens, excuse me, so what's happening is the two employees on the same grade, there'll be two different lines for that pay grade then, because of that action.
Okay, so you're proposing, or
We're still just talking about the police chief position, but
Yep.
he's on the same grade as another position that's going to be paid higher,
yep.
which is uncommon, so.
And you're saying we're comfortable doing that? That's fine. We'll have two
One step
positions
at a
graded
time.
the same.
There's a
One's a
yes, I
little
am.
higher than the other.
Yep, there's a lot going on, and so I thought we'd just try to address them one piece at a time.
But with this recommendation, with just the one-step adjustment, eliminates that concern of a possible pay cut that we heard at the
Right,
last
it
meeting?
eliminates the pay cut concern compared to what he would have received under the current 2024 wage that he is operating under. It's about a $500 thing that he would be losing by utilizing the Flaherty and Hood 2024 wage grid rather than the wage grid that was adopted previously for that position.
So what's the downside of, since we had an agreement through 2024 in that department, what's the downside of seeing that through 2024 and then making the change in 25?
The goal was to get everybody on the Flaherty and Hood wage chart, and that's what we're proposing for that purpose. We talked to Mr. Davis and Mr. Rundy yesterday, unbeknownst to them, called them out of the blue to talk about this proposal, walked through it with them, and they didn't have opposition, but they didn't have a lot of time to think about it either. But our goal was anticipated the council wants everybody on Flaherty and Hood, and this would accomplish that.
I have trouble with the chief losing wages. You said about $500?
Right, so that by advancing the step as we are recommending, he is making up that wage loss.
But
We
not-
are correcting that for him.
And then increasing the wage as well, or just making up the loss?
So we are putting him onto the Flaherty and Hood grid, which is a new wage, which takes care of that wage loss. Is that what you're asking me, Kara?
She's asking, would he make more money
Yes.
in this? And the answer is yes.
Okay, so it'd make up for the loss and more, sir? Oh, I'm
I'm-
sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm just wondering if so you would make up the loss and also make more money?
I would say no. So what this proposed action would do would make it so I would not have a loss in 2024, this first year. However, if you were to look over the next 3.5 years, and those, I would be locked in a step 6 for 3.5 years. So looking at the next 3.5 years, yes, I would not lose money in 2024, but if you look at this over 3.5 years, I would end up losing money in comparison to what's previously been said. What's maybe a little unique about this one is the Flaherty and Hood wage grids came in lower than the existing, whereas a lot of the city, it was the opposite. So I would not lose money in 2024, but by going to the Flaherty and Hood, subsequent years, I would over the next 3.5 years. And I figured to amount of about $5,500 over the next 3.5 years, so.
My only concern with that is the agreement ends on 2024. There is no agreement like union contracts stipulating what the next steps would be. They would have had to been a separate resolution for that. So that's why I have a little bit of problem saying that he would have lost money going, but
And we
Yeah, I mean, we
also,
see it here, the step 6 on 2024 would have been $64, and now it's $60. So that's essentially what,
oh, Connie, what are you thinking?
I'm aware of what we did, I'm just saying 64 and 60 are two different numbers. Do you agree with that? Yeah.
So he's not gonna lose money in 2024, but after 2024, he has really no contract, so we'd have to renegotiate that, correct?
Actually, he would be on the Flaherty and Hood agreement, or the Flaherty and Hood, and he would just follow that process as he stated. So he's frozen for, because he'd be at step 6, and not until he receives 3 excels or exceeds would he be allowed to move up. And so,
But bottom line, he's gonna lose money.
but there is no agreement for 25 or future years.
and we
we
don't
couldn't
know
make
what
that up.
the COLA would be for either proposal at this point either. The other thing that may take effect here is we did a wage adjustment for him when we, for the position, when we negotiated our police officer's wage. That contract currently ends in '24. So there could be another issue when we negotiate again to maintain that supervisory gap. Because that union contract expires, we don't know what those amounts are. We don't know what we're going to have. So in my mind, it's almost better to wait to negotiate a wage for him for '25 when we know what those union contracts
And both
would be.
LELS and Teamsters are set to be negotiated this fall.
Correct.
Is there a reason why we wouldn't just go to step 6 now?
And the problem
I'm
solved.
thinking out loud,
Right.
sorry, but.
That's up to Gabe, if that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, and I apologize. When I spoke to the future 3.5 years, obviously I was just basing that off of the 2024 numbers. Actually, my loss might be a little conservative because if we looked at applying a certain percentage of a COLA over those years, you know, the discrepancy would probably be greater. You know, I guess to answer your comment that you had just made, you know, I had figured based on the 2024 numbers, over the next 3.5 years, the loss to my income would be roughly $5,500. I did just quickly do the math, and if I immediately went to step 6 now, that would eliminate it to roughly a $1,500 loss over 3.5 years. So it would minimize that to a degree.
I really struggle with this. I mean, the responsibility for many of our employees, but now if I'm him looking down the road, tomorrow I lose money, the next day I lose money. That doesn't seem right to me.
So the goal of what we were trying to do was make sure he was whole for 2024. This is a wage resolution for 2024, and I believe that this adjustment does that. You can look at different adjustments for 2025 as well, or if there are other COLA adjustments that are implemented throughout the couple years as well, that might address some of those things. So that's where our recommendation was coming from.
I appreciate that very much, and I agree with Kevin on concerns about the wages and the wage loss. I think Chief has a number of years of really great service with us, and I would, not that any other staff do not, because they all do too. I'm talking specifically Chief Davis. I know good talent is really hard to find and/or keep, and so I would propose that we move him directly to step 6 as opposed to the step 5 and then step 6 halfway through the year, only focusing on Chief Davis, none of the other positions, and the impact at this point.
I would support that.
So instead of moving him to step 4 on 1/1, you're proposing to move him to step 6 on 1/1?
It'd be step 5 is the proposed on 1/1, and then
He
step 6.
originally, if we had followed what we are doing for placement for all of our other employees, he would have been placed on step 4.
Oh, right, then the modified
The modification was to get him to step 5 to make him whole for 2024. What you're telling us is to implement that a half a year early so that it would be on January 1st instead of June 3rd, if I'm understanding your proposal correctly.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so we have the authority to recommend that to the council. We also could just place the police chief as the same as the public utilities director, which is graded the same, which would
That's very true.
definitely take care of any compensation concerns.
That's actually a good point. Then we wouldn't have the two.
That'd be a better
lanes.
solution.
Yeah, I like that.
I have not looked at the step placement for if he would go under the Public Utilities Director wage grade. Have you, Connie? Since it wasn't part of our recommendation, I didn't look at that, but we could, and let you know, to make sure that he is made whole under
would rather
that
go that
situation as well.
The other thing then is you have your city engineer that's between those two, so he would have more points, but would be paid less.
So
That's, I think, why that was not the recommendation.
So when she says between, what's happening is we move the public utilities director's salary up, but we didn't adjust his grade because the grades were determined through the process. And his salary actually went above the city engineer's, which is higher grade than him. And so that's one of the things when I said I'm not trying to correct everything today, I'm trying to correct some things and then come back and look at it when we're all said and done, because we also talked about some of the electric line workers having some issues too. And so trying to guess what those things are, it's just, I took the policy that I just want to correct one thing at a time and we'll address this. I agree with what you're saying. There's a lot of different ways to look at it, so.
But for now, we're dealing with the police chief.
Right now, we're on the police chief's appeal. What type of resolution do we want to come to? Let's make a recommendation to the
I
council.
like your
here.
recommendation.
I said it was an option, it wasn't my recommendation.
Okay, option.
I'd like to know what that option would look like.
Can we get that Monday night?
We could, yes.
No, I agree.
So, I mean, we didn't get an appeal from the city engineer, but that's obviously something that would need to be taken into account or considered moving forward. But let's look right now at putting the police chief on the same grade, the same wage grid as we did the public utility director, since they're graded the same. And see how
We
that
can do
looks
that for Monday night. We'll get that ready. And
All right.
what I'm hearing is you'd like me to look, if we can, put something in there for the engineer with the same separation and,
So, yeah, I mean, the engineer shouldn't be paid less if he's graded higher. Do we want to put him at the same, or do we want to find a spot in between
do the
the
numbers.
administrator?
Let's just do the numbers we know.
we can present something is what we'll
Yeah,
prepare something that
let's
includes
have
that.
something there too, so we still have the separation.
Don't have to go back again.
Okay. By the way, staff did talk to me about that, but it got to be so convoluted, that's why I apologize. We didn't look at the bigger picture.
That's all right, we only need you for 4 hours a day, Patrick.
So the other thing we talked about is Deputy Chief Rundy. So we had proposed that he be placed on step 3 at this point as well, instead of step 2, as he normally would have been done. I did not provide a lot of details on that position, but we could do that on Monday as well, if that would be helpful.
So if we would look at the public utilities director, if you look at the second to the last picture, to the last page, so it says this. That would give you the way to see how the utility, oh, there's the police chief, then utility director, city engineer, public works director, and city administrator. We put the public works director as the grade is the same as the police chief, but you can see what the wage difference would be if we bumped him up to the utility director wage. I could turn this one on here.
Okay, so,
So that would put him down to like step 2 then, instead of up to step 5. But then his earning potential exceeds what the current grade is. So down the road, it's beneficial.
And then that's the same thing then with the city engineer and public works director. You can see that there's what, a $4 difference in step 1?
Yeah.
So to give you an idea of what you're talking about, and then, yeah. I would just question if this is opening a Pandora's box as well with all the other employees too, that if they would look at the 1231 grade and now the step, it's changing, so.
We could make it as complicated as we want, but we heard 4 appeals
Right.
on this proposed wage grade. So right now, we've got 4
Correct.
employees who had concerns or questions about it. Those are the 4 things we need to solve, and then we can deal with Pandora later. And Patrick doesn't want to deal with it. He's out of here in a month. Somebody else's problem.
28 days.
28 days. We'll get you for the 29th. I'm going to make sure you're in City Hall on the 29th.
I have to take my ESST that the governor demanded, so.
Oh, that's true.
Don't have to.
All right.
But
Sorry.
for police chief, let's see what the public utilities.
Correct.
As far as the deputy chief, who didn't appeal, but had the same concern of maybe 6 months of a decrease in pay, you're proposing we put him, or put that position onto step 4 instead of step 3 as of January 1st.
I was proposing, we were proposing that on January 1st, he would go to step 3. He originally was slotted to go to step 2.
Okay, so
4 in June.
Yep.
So I think we accept that recommendation, but then look at the police chief who did appeal, and we're trying to make right.
Okay.
Is that clear enough for you?
Yeah, and it's just complicated due to the chief and the deputy chief having a separate resolution too that was done a couple years ago, so we're trying to resolve a lot of different things.
Right, and then that will need to be figured out sometime in the next year and a half after we get that union figured out and make sure we don't have any compression through the many, many levels of bureaucracy we have in the police department. I would say 1 or 2 too many, but that's just my opinion. So now we have the electric distribution supervisor, Chris.
Okay, so for his appeal, Mr. Lackout said that he was promoted to the electric distribution supervisor position on November 7th of '23. He noted that he took a pay cut to accept the position when factoring in overtime and other additional pay. He voiced concern about accepting a position a few months ago and now his wage being frozen. In reviewing his appeal, staff noted that when he was promoted to the position, he did receive an additional step placement at that time, taking into consideration his scheduled standby pay to help address the wage loss issue, because that was a guaranteed wage because he was scheduled on those. Overtime, you don't know when those things are going to happen. Staff respects Mr. Lockout's appeal. However, like we had said before, the entire organization and internal equity also needs to be considered. With that in mind, staff did not recommend a wage adjustment for that position at this time.
Okay, and then I have one question on this one, since it was like November when he was hired into this position. Was he made aware at the time that he was potentially going to be frozen or anything like that?
No, that information was not shared with department heads and non-supervisors until
December 29th.
December 29th.
And depending on what the COLA would have been, who knows what that would have been. So I couldn't give him a, this could happen type of scenario.
Was he
What
aware that we
did-
were doing a
Market adjustment at
Yeah.
that time, yes.
We had already met with the unions, and so the union that he was coming out of was told about their wages and some of them being frozen.
okay, and then he said something along the lines of he was told he was going to go right on to step 7. Did we figure out who told him that, or did you
That
write
was
that
not
down,
from
Chris?
HR if he was told that.
That was not from HR.
No, and that has to follow our employee policy manual language that you have to be in that position for 3 years before you can advance to step 7.
Did you do any research to figure out like who told him that, or
I did
how he
not,
was
no.
led to believe that he would just immediately go to step 7? Because that's not our policy.
And that's not in the union contract language either, so I'm not sure where
Okay.
he received that. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding at some point.
However, it's not right.
It's in our control if we have people still saying stuff like that. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
So also attached is the information that we would be providing for the wage resolution. That's the document that Connie had talked about. We do need to add the recreation coordinator to this wage grid. It wasn't listed on there since that was a vacant position. Next, I have included the step placement as of before this meeting, as far as what we were going to recommend. That is usually listed on that wage resolution as well. The final document is, I wanted to share what the lump sum payments would be for the individuals whose wages were frozen. So that is your last page. You'll notice that the one listed for Charles Gammon is only $189. That is because with his adjustments, he was getting a 2.35% adjustment. If I remember right, Connie, she had helped me with those numbers. So this is just the difference between the 2.5 versus the 2.35 he is receiving. I need to work with our city attorney to come up with language how this lump sum needs to be reflected in a wage resolution or whatever. It's something I haven't dealt with before, so that's part of the reason why you don't have a wage resolution today either.
Okay, so you'll have the wage resolution Monday night?
I'm hoping to have it for the packet tomorrow. If I can't work with our employment law attorney enough to get it done, I'll bring it on Monday night.
Okay.
Do we need to take action then, make a motion? I don't know what to make a motion on.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you heard I think the only adjustment from your recommendations was the police chief, so get that added into the wage resolution.
Yes.
And then I don't think we need to take action. We'll just recommend approval of it on Monday night. Even though I will say I'm not really comfortable approving it, even though I'm going to support it on Monday night. But I've long said I want to get the unions, the collective bargaining units on board with this Flaherty and Hood grid before we move everything onto it. We don't have any unions agreeing to this yet. And here we are putting the non-union employees on it. But I recognize their need for consistency in their wages and their annual increases and all that. And they can't be held in limbo while we're negotiating. But this is not at all what I wanted out of the Flaherty and Hood study. I wanted the collective bargaining units to buy into the agreement first and then move forward. But I understand we are where we are. It's now entering February. Anything else?
Nope.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
Going back to the city engineer, it got mentioned, but then it didn't get resolved.
March 1st.
That person directly right there.
Yeah, March 1st, we'll deal with it.
You want these back, Connie?
I'm Chris, but that's okay. I've been called worse. Yes, that would be nice.
Well, it bounced around.
Right, the information will be in the packet. I'm not sure about the appeals information. Did you want that to be included in the packet as well, or just the wage resolution?
I would include it. It's public data. We proposed a wage. We had 4 employees appeal that. I'd put it in there.
Okay.
All right. Oh, I want to do the safety and public works work here. Got that risky business tobacco license. So is it just item number 6, Connie, or are we on 5?
Number 5, we just finished.
Okay, so number 6, annual review and approval of investment policy. Connie?
So annually, we review the investment policy at the first meeting in February. The only recommendations that staff is making is the correction of the title to be finance manager / secretary of the Brainerd Public Utilities Commission, to do the day-to-day investments, and then updating the signature block from where it was last year.
Big changes.
I so move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. That motion carries. Anything else? I've got 26 minutes, but
Not me.
Kevin doesn't. He's got to get up to Main Street.
Just to note that you will have a closed session to update on union negotiations and seek some guidance
Okay,
On Monday?
on Monday.
Okay.
and with that, we're adjourned.